I'm ready.
Hello and welcome to Eastern Marshlands Evening with Comrades. It is currently the 3rd of the 8th, 2019, just so that everyone knows for posterity what date it is. And tonight we have with us Senna,
Hello.
Crypto,
Fisker Mama Karajan.
Dip Tap,
Dajaha.
Positus Pac-Man,
3.6 Rotogen is good for the skin.
the Red
Of course.
Mushroom.
What else?
We also have Theo.
Hi, I'm Theo. That's
That's
dog
my
crime.
dog. Sorry.
Thank you.
That's
Theo,
everyone's
I'm not your
favorite
dog.
doggo of
No,
Senna's.
shut up. Shut up. My name is Theo. I'm still Austrian. I'm still a communist. Hello. Good
And
night. Good morning.
I am
whatever.
TK Jones. So, everyone, recently, Eastern Marshlands had our first get-together in Melbourne. We're just going to have a little
Yes,
bit,
we did.
a little bit of a debrief on that. Pac-Man, you were the one who was live streaming the whole way. Could you give us a quick update on, or a debrief on our little get-together?
Okay, so what happened was I got up at, 8 o'clock in the morning on the day I left, and I was like, okay, I'm going to drive to Fortress TK. The adventure I had was pretty average, just driving along the great open road. Didn't get to stop for Krispy Kremes. I wanted to, but, no ethical consumption and all that.
Yeah.
The signage in Victoria is fucking shit, so I got lost halfway because I was supposed to be heading towards. I followed the signs, but I followed the signs exactly.
See, there's your
Oh.
first mistake.
That's how we get you.
Yeah, I followed the signs. They said St. Arnaud, the interconnecting road between Adelaide and Fortress TK, and I was like, "Huh, I'm going to go down that road." And
That's
there
how
was
they
no
keep-
sign.
That's how they
to
keep people out of Victoria, you know? You
Yeah,
can't
exactly.
get in.
It's like
All the
it's-
roads
it's
lead
like-
back.
Yeah, it's like the anti-invasion measures made in England during 1940. They just like painted over the signs and like turn them around. But yeah, I ended up somewhere in the middle of central Victoria. Anyway, I resolved the issue by pointing myself towards the nearest town. I found a country road with nobody on it, so I turned my speakers up to full blast playing Eurobeat, and no, I'm not joking.
No. I was going to say, you're telling me that you went down country roads and you didn't play John Denver.
No, I played Deja Vu because I was drifting
I-
around those
I'm,
country roads.
I'm disappointed
Yeah.
in you. I'm disappointed in you, Pac-Man.
Well,
I'm
a
sorry.
Lot of, a lot of them are either
So much
sand or
better.
gravel, so you can really like get the back end out.
Yeah,
You-
I was expecting so much from someone who's obsessed with nuclear apocalypse.
Yeah. Are you telling me that Eurobeat, which is famed for making people go faster, is not a representation of accelerationism? Are you going to make that
Peter,
claim
you're
on this
not an
stream?
orc.
Yeah, but you're
You're
also
not an orc.
You're implying that John Denver's "Take Me Home, Country Roads" is not.
Oh, God.
Well, you see, that is an interesting debate, but not one we will discuss today. But anyway,
You
I
know-
ended up in
The CIA is convinced that communists are organizing on the internet in order to create terror attacks. Really, we're just sitting around here talking about
The
whether it's
intricacies of-
better to play John Denver during a road trip or Eurobeat. We're having
Yeah.
party's gonna split over this, TK. You can't just ignore that.
Like you mentioned how like leftists are unable to organize anything. Like when we like one of the reasons we went down to Melbourne was because I was invited along to a big mass action meeting at the Victorian Trades Hall, and I went in and I realized like, oh no, wait a minute, those are those people that were like, let's get excited for the next election. I'm like, oh no, are they liberals? No, oh no. And I was like, oh god, they won't be able to organize jack shit. What are we doing here? Turns out it wasn't that bad. Don't worry.
No, it wasn't. We had like half the room was the good people, and the other half of the room was the meh people. But we ended up getting something done. So
Yeah. We actually got shit done. One of my favorite moments.
Oh, it's not the most fun part of the meeting.
Yeah.
It's not the
the
fun
that
part of
note-
the meeting.
The most fun
On
part
that
of the
note, I'm
meeting
gonna.
was when we were all asked a question. How did you feel after the election? Turn to the person next to you and talk about it. And I'm like, yeah, it was a fuck. It was pretty annoying. And then they asked and what did you want to do after it? And I turned to Pac-Man and Mushy, and I was like, General Strike.
General
Strike.
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 General Strike. General Strike.
Half the room joined in. The other half of
We
the
started
room,
chanting.
the other half of the room was like, "What the fuck is going on?" And the organizers up front were like, "Oh shit, the revolution's starting."
Yeah, we started screaming General
that
Strike.
On that note, I'm gonna open up a cold one here.
Nice.
Yeah, we go.
I'm drinking whiskey cola because I'm.
Do you want to know what? Do you want to know what the word for general strike is in Gaelic?
What is it?
Oh yeah.
I think it's Stalch Hoichion. Hold on. Stalchoichen. I'm fucking exhausted. I've had 3 hours of sleep. I can't speak.
Oh no, fucking crypto! I can relate. I was out to a birthday party which involved copious amounts of the wonderful Mary Jane. So I didn't go directly. I was secondhand, but even I was like, oh, we were hotboxing in a fucking shed.
It's secondhand,
True.
officer. I swear.
It was secondhand actually.
Okay, right here. Stalchoichen.
Yeah.
So the main reason
I shared the stream on a few servers I'm in, so we.
Oh, DipDap! What the
Jesus
fuck?
Christ, DipDap! What the fuck?
What the fuck?
Shit, the Dengists have got to win. Everybody, protect DipDap.
So the main reason the main reason I mentioned the EML meetup is because it's always great to catch up with people. It's super fun, but also because it's happening again.
Yes.
August 17th, wasn't it?
Yep, August 17th.
Exactly 3 kilometers out off the coast of New Zealand.
August 17th.
No, same
No
place.
boats allowed.
Be good now. Sorry.
It's all
What the
good.
fuck
Federation
was that,
Square,
Dip?
Melbourne.
For some reason, those headphones fucked up.
Huh.
I'm
Well,
telling you, it was the Dengists. They are hacking into DipDap stream.
So if there,
It
They're coming
sounded
for you.
like
They don't want me to
supersonic cracks. I thought I was getting shot at.
So if
Also,
there are
I would
any
also-
comrades in Melbourne who couldn't make the first meetup, there is another one August 17th, most likely at the same time of about 2 p.m.
Maybe a bit earlier because because it also maybe, I don't know if is it confirmed of our guest of honor, TK? Is that confirmed to be a thing or not a thing?
Oh, we'll keep that one under our hats, but yes, there might be a certain froggy someone coming along. So it sounds like maybe
Yeah.
we'll confirm the time later, but the date is August 17th. We're gonna try to sort out issues beforehand, and to segue somehow. Speaking of issues, Senna, apparently you've been having a few Twitter issues.
Yes, I've been fighting dipshits since yesterday. Here's the thing. This is something that some people in LGBT communities fucking do that's absolute garbage. You've got people who unironically see the concept of toxic masculinity and think, oh, this means literally every single person who considers himself a man and is alive at this given moment is an actual monster. They are inherently evil people. It's a requirement for being a man. This is literally shit that I have been seeing people saying. A lot of this
is
is
an actual quote at verbatim. That was an actual quote from
pretty much.
yesterday.
Pretty much.
The inherent aspect of being a man that part, that's a literal quote.
Throw the radfems
Oh,
out the
yes.
fucking airlock.
Yes, it's very interestingly similar to turf rhetoric, but not focused on penises. You
Yeah.
know,
More focused
so
on
that's
How dare
quite
you
interesting,
enter
and
this
it's very
safe
scary that some
space
trans,
with your penis.
especially, have been like, "Oh, this is good, actually." Like,
Yeah.
no, it's not.
It goes
No, it's
from
so not.
yeah, because it goes from whereas TERFs assign arbitrary standards to abstract social concepts and identities, and then go, oh, all men are inherently bad because penis. They go, yes, we understand that it's an abstract concept with no actual personal alterations behind it. Nothing makes someone inherently a man. They're still all evil for some reason. Because that makes sense.
Yeah, and when I first went off about it, I was like, I'd seen this going around a few times before, and some people finally started talking about, hey, maybe this isn't the best thing to do. Because, up until pretty recently, at least in, online places, it just wasn't really talked about at all. Anyone who did this just kind of got silent. Yeah, okay. And everyone moved on.
Is this
No one really confronted them or anything.
Is this a part
But
of
lately,
that?
that's been happening, which is good.
Sorry. Is this a part of that dirtbag left SJW left split that's going on currently?
The people I've seen talking about it don't seem to like your weird dirtbag leftists, because a lot of them,
No.
yeah, it doesn't seem to be terribly connected to that. Although I'm sure dirtbag leftists will be like, well, see, this is why social justice warriors are bad, even though some of us are actually quite good, and we're trying to fight against the ones that are fucking stupid. Because here's the thing, a lot of people seem to take the attitude like, oh, well, anything social justice related is bad because this shit happens. And it's like, any political concept that isn't as simple as a self-explanatory thing that you can describe in one sentence with zero room for any sort of misinterpretation is gonna have this problem. We see it with, ideological shit all the time. This is really no different, and the cat's kind of out of the bag anyways. At this point, the best thing you can do is be like, no, this is not what that shit means. This is not right or helpful. This is the actual case.
Yeah, Theo
split
has her hand up. I would like to address my fellow trans women. Hello, fellow kids. No, but
Well, that started off on the good foot. Yeah, okay, keep going.
No.
Keep going.
Shut
Keep
up,
going.
Peter. Shut up. No. Hello, girls. I am girl. Hello. No, but I understand that being a man wasn't for you. That it may have even been traumatic for you. But to a very large portion of people on this planet, it is an integral part of being comfortable about their person. And with your shit, what the fuck is that?
Someone's playing porn music in the background during this most
Step
emotional
dab.
moment.
What? I'm
Oh
playing
my.
background music.
Jesus Christ.
Okay,
I mean, I
Where
appreciate
was
you
I?
wanting to set the mood, but goddamn.
where was I? Right. I understand that it wasn't for you, and that it may have even been traumatic, but for a lot of people, it's an important part of who they are. And you're especially hurting trans masculine people, like trans men. Because through this, you're essentially telling them, hey, you know that thing that you do to feel positive about in your skin, to feel comfortable with yourself and to feel good and loved? Yeah, that makes you evil, by the way. Just saying, sorry about that, but you're inherently bad for being human in that specific way. And that's just kind of fucked up. Not even kind of, that's just fucked up, period.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't associate ourselves with that sort of
Yeah.
mindset. It's kind of like if you, kind of like when trans women get told by TERFs, hey, you can't be here and be a good person because you have a penis, which it feels horrible. It makes people hurt. And that is something we want to avoid, especially to people who are innocent, people who do not deserve this sort of treatment. There's nothing inherently evil about being
Kitty,
a
get
man.
off! You stink.
Some of the best people I know are men, cis men even. But you're hurting queer men with your behavior. Because don't act like the fucking boomer TERFs, because that's who you're acting like.
Oh boy.
You know, with your
Exactly.
estrogen cult. Because, kids, I have a question to the room. What do we call a society based on aesthetics?
Fascism.
Oh, that would be fascism.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
what I'm going to end my statement here.
Okay, I was gonna say, as the I guess the official, yeah. Well, you see, Senna is just getting pussy as normal. That's what she does. She is the pussy magnet, quite literally in this case. I guess I'm sort of like the official
confirm.
representative of the dirtbag left here. I guess maybe I don't know if crypto kind of fits in there.
You keep insisting on that. You keep insisting on that, Peter. You are very bad on demonstrating on it, but go on.
Yeah, no, I think that I'm the least annoying member. I'm the equivalent of a dirtbag leftist liberal. I'm like, I want to be edgy. I'm trying hard. But I guess I'm representative of that. But it's like when we say no gods, no masters, and no borders, it's like a lot of my anti-idpol crowd friends, or I don't even want to call them that. What do you call them? Associates? Like
Acquaintances.
maybe that's. But it's like I remember how edgy I used to be. Both myself and Frog Boy used to be fucking edgy as fuck. But it's like you meet people, and when you sort of tear down those walls that sort of separate people based on identity, you realize that whole concept of identity. Like for me, when I started, identity politics was just literally just horrible. But I now view identity as this sort of nebulous thing that is between individuals, and to nail down anybody with a label in of itself is like completely abhorrent. And the thing is, everybody, like, I think a lot of the
I would like to clarify labels as in exonyms. It's you can if you ascribe an identity or a label to yourself, that's an entirely different thing to when other people go up to you, brush you over with, I don't know, Mr. Steve Fuckballs over there. It's like, you are the same because you both have
No, you don't get my soup.
nostrils. I don't know.
There is.
Sorry, go on.
It's just sort of the thing that sort of gets me is that I used to sort of be a part of the radical anti-idpol. We don't want to talk about identity, but you see, the thing is, you get to learning that identity is a core part of who you are, and everybody has one, and it's all based entirely on the entirety of identity is, I suppose, to be coy about it, I guess, identity is a spectrum. Literally, there is an identity for everybody, and to prevent someone or to say you can't talk about this issue in a space from either the radical identitarians, like, people who are like all men are trash, for example, like you were mentioning before, and the other ones are like, you can't talk about toxic masculinity because that's liberal ideology. Like, they're both fucking idiots. They are literally trash.
The important thing that every leftist should do, and that I was going to say before, I don't know why this is a split, or it has been a split such a long time. Is just, if you have a materialist analysis of like social conditions and whatnot, you just by virtue of that, you have to have an acknowledgement of where these things intersect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't understand what you're trying to analyze without taking into account like fullness of it all.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can try. You're gonna look like an idiot.
So the chat has sort of started their own little conversation about Vosh and his views on this sort of thing.
Oh boy.
If we could,
Oh yeah,
Yes.
Vosh.
Oof.
I have
Vosh.
no clue about him, no clue who he is. Do I want to know who he is?
He's a streamer.
He's- Yeah, and
Who made a stupid joke that was incredibly insensitive, and instead of going, "Hey, sorry, that was a stupid joke," he doubled down and said, "Actually, I shouldn't have to be nice to you because I'm such a good ally, because that's not backwards logic at all."
oh
Right.
yeah, that was.
Well,
I didn't even see this insensitive joke, but
It was
Do I-
something
doesn't-
about how trans women are always ultra sensitive to everything or something, which is just. Ugh.
Oh, I don't know. The fact about repressing your identity and being oppressed by 80%
Exactly.
of society might have something to do with you with being a
It-
little
the
bit
words-
edgy.
It's
Crikey.
kind of like triggering.
words-
It is triggering PTSD in a
Yeah, I was
sense,
gonna
you
say,
know.
yeah, Pac-Man, you took the words right out of my fucking mouth.
Like, hey, there's this thing that is really traumatic for me.
Mm.
It's kind of like when, let's take an example. When someone that has come out of, say, war and hears fireworks and his brain kicks in. "Oh, you are under artillery fire. Get down under that chair." It's like it is sort of that. It's a panic reaction, and it doesn't mean, "Oh, I'm so sensitive." It's much more like my brain is telling me that you are in grave danger, even though nothing's really threatening me. It's
Aya,
trauma.
I am actually going to bite your tail. Come here.
Right.
Okay.
On
that note,
So we've gone from getting pussy to eating pussy very quickly. This is now an X-rated screen.
Given how
She didn't even care. That's the worst part.
So given how these conversations and incidents to a point. Zordon. Thank you, Zordon. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you.
Nice.
Hey.
hold on. Where's my drink? There's my drink.
What's about
So,
toxic
given
masculinity?
how
Cheers, Zordon.
these Twitter
Hear
conversations
me?
can go and how detrimental they can be, how much should we be engaging in them? Is there any sort of any dialectics we can actually get out of them, or should we just ignore them entirely?
I
Absolutely.
stay right the fuck away from left Twitter. I post anime memes. I stay right the fuck away.
That is true.
I
That is
agree.
true. But you do have to, like, although this is more like a job for, people that are directly involved in those circles. Like, I am echoing from someone.
Yeah, we got some audio issues.
Dip that, we're echoing from you.
Uh-oh.
That's
Hello?
And he fireworks and brain kicks in. "Oh, you are under artillery fire. Down under that chair." Mute the stream, Dip Tab.
Yes. Come on, dude.
To get where you can hear me again. I couldn't think you could hear me a minute ago.
No, we can hear you.
Okay.
Also, we're echoing really bad in your mic.
Yeah, dude.
These headphones are fucky. Hold on.
Just use push to talk.
All
There
right,
we
but
go.
on the topic of
Can I finish my point?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm fucking
Right.
tired.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. No, but I think it is important. This is mostly sort of the responsibility of people like me, Senna, other,
Aya, get down.
queer masculine people who have the patience to get involved with this, because it is something that needs to be, like, or just queer people in
Yeah.
general, that needs to be
Yeah.
said. We need to, because we don't hear it. I never see people, well, sometimes see people, but I don't see people enough, sort of having that pushback and going, "Hey, boys are pretty cool," It's, if masculine things make you happy, that's awesome. Like those sorts of tweets. That's I think it's underrepresented. And when people go and are like, "Oh, masculinity, evil and bad, it tends to go unchallenged. And we've seen what happens if you leave claims entirely unchallenged on a platform like Twitter.
Oh yeah.
It spreads. It's like a cancer. You need to sort of push back immediately. That's
People
that's
also
that's
don't
the
fuck with
yeah,
masculine
yeah.
women.
That's the important
Dipjet, you had a point you were
dialectics
trying to
there.
make before?
So when we talk about toxic masculinity, there's both toxic masculinity and hegemonic masculinity. Hegemonic masculinity is the idea that people have to do manhood right societally. It determines sociology. And if a man then does something that is outside of that hegemonic masculinity, after being put on a societal pedestal, I mean, what happens when you put someone on a pedestal? They have longer to fall. If a man then deviates masculinity, which includes toxic masculine characteristics, they have a long way to fall and will be ostracized. That is hegemonic masculinity.
So you're basically trying to get at your performativity in terms of, as Judith Butler puts it.
Well, this is based on Gramsci.
Could you clarify the point you're trying to make? Because I'm a bit confused what the specific point you're trying to make here is. Because I am familiar with the concept, but
people who then do masculinity wrong societally will be punished. So men, even trans men, are pushed by society to conform to that being, no matter if they actually identify with it or not. It's to pass.
yes, that's a pretty basic concept of gender. That's the word. Gender theory. That there is a societal expectation, and if your action does not fall within that societal expectation, you will be sort of
Ostracized?
It not just ostracized, but it's just something that a lot of times you will not consider because of that. For example, this is why a lot of trans women still have interests that would classically be considered, masculine, such as video games, firearms, or something like that. Those sorts of hobbies, because they were exposed to those fields in before, in before their transition, and because we like to assign it's a weird thing we do in like, especially in our sort of Western influence circles, that we sort of put this hyper emphasis on every action that we do having to be gendered in one way or another, and that's sort of what leads to that. Because I can tell you for sure that I know a lot more like cis women, for example, that would be very interested in a lot of like games or other shit like that. It's just that a lot of the times they don't allow themselves to become invested in those things. I think Senna, as the resident NB, can say something about that as well.
Yeah, like I was always at a weird impasse because, like, I am AFAB, like, got the pussy and shit like that. And not just my fucking cat, who thankfully has decided to stop coming up here for the time being. But also, like, I'm kind of a girl, but also kind of not. It's weird. It's fucking weird shit. I don't even understand myself anymore. I've given up on fully understanding that shit because it's just... Ugh.
That's fair.
It's a mess. I'm whatever the fuck I am. That's usually in a somewhat girly coat of paint, but also I kind of behave like a man a lot of times. So, it's a whole thing. And I always remember as a kid, like, especially because specifically I'm gender fluid, and I guess this sort of had an effect, was like, sometimes I'd be like, oh, yeah, spend some time with the girls and stuff like that, even though they don't really like me because I'm not girly enough and they think I'm weird. And then other times I'm like, I want to fucking play football with the boys. I want to tackle some cunt. And yeah, it just I was always like not quite boyish enough to be a full-on tomboy, but not really girly enough to be a girly girl, and that made me a weird person.
Yeah. You were just Senna, as unique and wonderful as that is.
Oh, you're a cutie.
Oh, that was wholesome.
Yes. With that, I think might be a good point to move on to our first scheduled topic.
Before we do that,
Crypto,
though,
you first.
not only is there an EML Australian meetup happening on the 17th of August, was it?
Oh, boys. Yep.
Oh.
There is indeed there is another EML meetup happening in Central Europe on the 12th of August.
Oh my
Yay.
Myself and Senna will be journeying over to Austria to meet Theo,
Yes.
and it will be fucking amazing.
Get a
Yes.
huge gang together. Like you guys should host your own one,
the
and
fuck?
then just like
Dude, who the fuck lives in Central Europe?
no, but maybe we've got some
You?
Italian comrades, some French comrades, some German comrades. Like be like, all right,
Like-
everybody meet in Vienna.
Fuck it, come on, let's go fuck up.
I'm not in Vienna. I'm not in
Let's go
Vienna.
smash up. Let's
I
go
mean-
smash up.
I
an
mean, we
apartment
could
store,
stop
let's-
by Vienna for like a day.
Yeah, but
I
it's like
wouldn't
a
mind that.
big city. It's
I
a big
can't
city.
afford that. I can't afford
Oh,
that.
good point.
I'll pay for your shit, hun butts.
No, that's cute.
Can visit the Tito
We'll see
Cafe.
we'll see how it
Oh
goes.
yeah.
Honestly,
Dude.
though, for anyone coming out of Germany, Linz is easier to reach. Just saying.
Yeah, Linz would probably. It's a big city,
Yeah, fair.
and there's a really good art gallery.
Man, it's so
Yeah,
good to
actually.
hear that there's comrades around the world willing to
Yeah,
meet
but
up.
hun butts, one of these days I'm taking you out to shop.
Thank you.
I will
That's-
buy you things.
Okay.
Because you're my princess and I want to spoil you.
Some might say,
Okay.
she's sugar mumming for me. I say she's
Oh.
the real MVP of this team. But
Yeah. Okay. I will say this. I was going to say on the last topic of before we
Go
move on
ahead.
to the next topic, I was going to say on the topic of like Senna was doing this really wholesome story, and I really appreciate it. But I'm going to drop the tone in the toilet because I'm a straight, white, cis, heterosexual man, and I watched the shit out of Saddle Club. I don't care. It was a fucking amazing
Saddle
show.
Club,
I mean,
Saddle
I will-
Club was amazing. Did you see the episode
was
where she
fucking-
had to canter instead of gallop to make it back in time?
No,
to warn them of
I
the
actually
fire?
remember the best episode. No, the best episode was when she got in trouble by playing practical jokes on her friends, and it was fucking fantastic. It was a great show. I am
Peter?
perfectly comfortable with my sexuality.
yes,
Thank you
I'm
very much.
aware. I almost watched you cry over Zombieland Saga.
Yes.
Yeah, shut up. We don't talk about that.
Aww.
I don't
Okay.
have feelings. I'm not allowed
Okay,
to have feelings.
mo-
Okay,
mo-
let's move on to
moving
something
on,
more
moving
I
important.
mean, I don't either, but that's the depression
Yeah,
talk.
yes.
Moving
What do
on.
you mean something more important? Anyway, go on.
So there's a meetup on August 12th, and there's also a meetup on August 17th in Central Europe and Fed Square in Melbourne. Hope to see you, comrades, there. Don't forget to also like and subscribe. And when you do subscribe, there's a little widget that comes up. Yeah, see, Comrade Eastern Marshland subscribed, and when you donate as well, a little donation thing comes up. Special thanks to Zordon, who donated $2 just before. Thanks again for that. Every time you donate, it means
Will there
that
be
yeah.
will there be a stream next week then?
Yeah, there will be one
I'll
next
try
week.
and do one.
Not the following week, Theo. I think might have.
No,
to do-
actually though, if we could probably, if DipTap can host one.
I mean, I'll get a new
Um,
computer. I can probably try to host.
Yeah, I'm going to conveniently forget my laptop in Austria.
This is evidence, honey.
So to
Comrade
How the fuck
John
are my
donated
parents going to
79.
search out this obscure
$79.
podcast? Shit.
To
God
stay
damn.
updated onto when we're having streams and whatnot, don't forget to subscribe, check out our Discord, and to see us on Twitter. So the next
Or call us on 0800 777
Fuck my-
1917 420 69.
Yeah,
That's
actually,
the sex number.
actually- Fucking hell, TK. I'm not going to forget that. Actually, in the
And
chat just
remember,
now, I just noticed
If
this.
you don't like the content of our podcast, you can go to hell.
What
Look
did you
at-
say, Peter?
Are we gonna have, are we
I
gonna
was
have
just
a
saying, if you
proper-
look, the Italian communists were the one that Lenin praised down there in the chat there, Dip Tap. We didn't tell you, I didn't get to the part, but on our EML meetup, we went to the trades hall. Do you know who we met out front? We met the fucking Spartacist League.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember, guys, Italian communism, critical support for ISIS against American imperialism. You heard it here
Yeah.
first, fellas.
Oh
Yeah.
god.
I wouldn't lump the Spartacists in with like Italy as a whole, but just generally.
I mean, they're shitty for different reasons,
I
but
would also like to say, if we have an advert, like just because like the whole fucking phone number thing, can we please make it be like the fucking Big Bill Hell's car shop advert?
TK can put his mask on in his
I
house
know
and make
exactly what you're talking about.
Fuck
it.
you.
Actually, you should have seen it. Mushy and I did the ceremonial thing. We took the newspapers from the trots, as one has to do. They don't give you a choice. As we were walking to Federation Square, we both made this ceremonial moment of just like, we just need to get rid of these, and we both like put it in the trash and boom. Into the pit it went. Just bang.
I hope you
Like-
did it like right in front of me.
Speaking of
Oh,
things,
no, I wish.
Speaking of things going down the toilet, Boris Johnson
Oh,
is the
segue.
UK Prime Minister. I am led to believe that he wants to try to do a no-deal Brexit, and he's also announced that I think he's announced, or they're talking about direct rule in Northern Ireland. So
I don't think he
Oh,
can.
right.
Crypto, your floor.
All right. So, ladies, gentlemen, envies, and
Fuck you,
comrades.
Baltimore. Yeah.
So basically, what came out recently was Dominic Raab, who I believe is the new Brexit secretary, has come out that the UK has contingency plans to ensure, quote unquote, I think it's quote, a smooth transition. And one of those things is direct rule in Northern Ireland. And basically, what that means is abolishing the Northern Ireland, well, suspending the Northern Ireland Assembly, and basically deciding all Northern Ireland matters directly from Westminster.
come
They
out
get
here,
no
my
say.
tans.
Directly from the all devolved matters to Northern Ireland are brought to the UK, and Northern Ireland no longer has an assembly. Now, that
Jesus.
is any prolonged thing that lasts longer than a week at most is a violation of the Good Friday Agreement, as is the hard border they are planning on implementing with the Republic. Now, comrades, I don't think I need to be the one to tell you, if the Good Friday Agreement is torn up, guess who is going to come back? Now, if you could excuse me. Come out, you black and tans, come out and
Come
fight
on
me
and
like
fight
a
me
man.
like a
Show
man.
your wife how you won medals down in Flanders. Tell her how the IRA made you run like hell away from the green and lovely lanes in Killishandra.
I
Oi,
love you,
Seamus, you
fucking
want to build a
ways.
car bomb? Like back in the 80s? You want to build a car bomb? Look at the kids, it'll be fun.
I would teach my kids how to make a car bomb.
EML does not support violence.
Email does not.
Okay, that's a
condone
quote right there.
violence.
That is a
Oh,
quote
fuck
right there.
you.
I'm in the quotes channel. You go, Senna. In the
But yeah.
quotes channel.
God damn it.
But real talk. If the thing, there will be riots on the streets of Northern Ireland when that happens, and they are not going to stop. And at some point, I honestly believe Boris Johnson would be fucking stupid enough to send in the troops. Now,
He will.
who's ready for Troubles 2.0? And actually, another interesting thing, it would be very interesting to see if he tries to use this as an example to set to Scotland. Now, for those unaware, there is Nicola Sturgeon, the current Scottish First Minister, who is part of the Scottish National Party, the main Social Democratic Party in Scotland, which is campaigning for Scottish independence. She has basically said that Boris Johnson becoming Prime Minister is making her consider accelerate plans for a second independence referendum. Now, the UK government has already said they will not tolerate, nor will they agree to, a second independence referendum. Now, if
Wasn't there a by-election though, which meant that the
in
party
Wales,
lost its majority? Okay.
and that's that was basically basically they're just because that's the thing. Everybody thinks this is the big, it's going to stop Johnson dead in his tracks. No, it will not. Johnson will not want. See if Boris Johnson loses his fucking majority. I don't think he would. I don't think he would tolerate it. I seriously don't think he'd tolerate it. And
Democracy? By God, we're
but back
the
to my-
Tories. What do
back
you think?
to my original point, if I may. If this bid for independence is refused by the UK government, and the Scottish government goes ahead with it anyway, it will be interesting to see what the UK government does in response to that. Now, if they're planning on implementing direct rule in Northern Ireland, you can bet their bottom dollar they're also considering implementing direct rule in Scotland.
Oh,
Now-
fuck that. Hell
Now,
no.
here's the thing. Scotland has way more devolved powers than Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland has an assembly. Scotland has its own parliament. Now, if you abolish the Scottish Parliament, which was thought for about, you're talking, the Scottish Parliament was only built in 1999. It's only existed since 1999, or it could be 1995, could have been 99. I could be wrong.
I think the law was made in 95, but it was implemented in 99, just according to plan.
Now, you take that away from the Scottish people, you deny them the right for a second independence referendum, and as was previously covered in the EML a while ago with the British government also tabling plans for martial law, you have quite the explosive cocktail stirred up in the proverbial napalm barrel.
It's
What
beautiful.
kind of expression is that, Crypto?
One with an egregious focus on war crimes.
Exactly.
Speaking of war crimes, I would like to direct this one at Senna. A friend of mine, a former military friend of mine, who you all know, has got some news for you, Senna. He says he's not saying he knows how to make a car bomb, but he may or may not know how to.
Oh.
So if you want to hit him up for that, you feel free to. Not for advocate for violence. Yeah.
But Scotty might.
is that a boozy I had to.
Hops in your car, notices
Someone
a
has
strange
actually-
package. Ooh, what's this?
Notices your bulge underneath your engine compartment.
Someone's actually
CIA,
asked
more
a
like
question.
CYA.
Someone's asked a question in the chat. OnlyGrow555. If the Troubles 2.0 happens and Scotland tries to secede again, how do you think Wales will react? Honestly, it's hard telling. I don't know that much about Welsh politics, but I do know that the westernmost regions of Wales are they're much more nationalistic than the ones closer to England. I think traditionally the west of Wales is where Plaid Cymru, which is basically Wales' equivalent of the SNP, is where they tend to do the most well. It's the most Welsh speaking. Well, it's the part of the country with the largest Welsh speaking population. So it will be very interesting to see. But in all honesty, what I can see happening would be in a positive scenario where basically everything goes off without a hitch, and the British government doesn't try to stop anything. Reunited Ireland, reunited Irish Republic. Scottish Republic, hopefully, and the United Kingdoms of England and Wales.
It's too early for an erection this big.
That's why it's called Morning Woodpack, man.
Yeah, but oh god, reunited Ireland. Yes, please.
Scottish
How-
Socialist
To be
Republic.
fair, though,
Sorry, go
what will
ahead.
definitely happen if the fucking you'll get what you usually get whenever the British government's like, let's have a reprisal against the Scots. You'll get the Midlands going like, oh, fuck your roads, we're blocking the fucking highways.
But if they do block the highways and they'll get viewed as, I honestly don't think that's going to do much, to be quite honest. Because keep in mind, you've still got military bases in Northumbria that are past them.
You do, but they need fuel and all that. Fuel is stored in fucking like Brighton and shit.
Portsmouth.
But they can-
Boris care. I've been doing this for fucking years.
So
It's not going to stop them dead in the tracks, but it's going to make it expensive to a point where it's like,
Yeah,
we fought
honestly,
this.
Scotland is basically Britain's Afghanistan. If they thought that Ireland was bad, Scotland, basically,
Scotland has a land connection.
unless you're traveling, up the east, up the northeast, almost all of the west coast is largely covered in mountains and hills. It's and with only tiny little single lane roads. You will not. It's very unlikely you'll be able to move massive amounts of troops through that. Unless you'd have to use fucking air power or something like that, or you just need to cover the entire northeast and then work your way west.
If this is the scenario, however likely it is, what can comrades in England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, around the world, what can we do now to prevent or prepare this? Is there anything we could do?
Raise money for high velocity bandages.
What I would say,
they could join in.
Hatchbacks make for the best kind of totally legitimate and non-violent fireworks.
What are you saying, Mushroom?
I was going to say they could join in my second ritual to resurrect. Well, last week it was Harry Haywood and Big Bill. So this week it's going to be James Conley.
I mean, here's the thing. What they could also do is they could join my free gift card giveaway. I mean, honestly, comrades in Scotland and England and Wales, what I would say is, honestly, just prepare for the worst. I wouldn't say don't do anything fucking stupid.
The worst?
Don't
I
stockpile.
don't want Boris Johnson to sit on my face.
Yeah, just don't fucking Theo, I'm going to fucking kill you. Don't
No.
don't don't do anything stupid. Don't stockpile fucking illegal shit like firearms or But I am saying
No, wait, that's the US.
What I am saying is prepare yourself, get any gear necessary, make a survival kit if need be, first aid kit, food, cans of food, bottles of water. Just basically get that ready. There's a very good article on I think it's a Belarusian anarchist site called Pramian. I will link that. I'll link that in the stream when I can find it. It's basically how to prepare for the revolutionary scenario, and it's a really, really good read, and I highly recommend it to everyone. As for comrades around the world, I would basically say, if comrades in the UK can't stay there and need to get fucking out, if possible, arrange places for them to stay and kind of like a rat line. Kind of get them out.
Yeah, when you're done, I want to add something to that, by the way.
And get them out and arrange a place for them to stay, because in all honesty, solidarity is one of the true things about solidarity. It's not just sharing propaganda or images. It's making sure your comrades have a place to go to if they need to. And I think that's a very important thing. Of course, if anything kicks off, it would be very good to keep in contact with comrades in the UK. As for comrades in the UK, I would highly recommend downloading Signal, the encrypted messaging app.
Yeah, Signal or Telegram or whatever you want's encrypted.
Yeah, well, Telegram I wouldn't really recommend, because Telegram it's basically been cracked by MI5 and GCHQ, so it's not all that secure. Signal, on the other hand, I highly recommend Signal. Wickr as well, which is WICKR, is really good as well. And if anything goes bad, social media gets cut, internet gets cut, it basically means you can find a way to still post stuff or get stuff out on what's happening. Because the really interesting thing is, it's just completely unrelated. And this is the last tangent I'll go on before I bring Theo up to add to what I said. If Scotland leaves the UK and Northern Ireland reunites with the Republic, that means the UK loses its seat on the United Nations Security Council.
Ooh.
Well, its permanent seat.
Ooh.
Now, what were you going to say, Theo?
I was gonna say that if you are in any country that's not probably the US, like say if you're in Germany and the UK starts, violating copious amounts of constitutional rights and whatnot, go protesting, hold up their consulate. It's not going to do much, but it's going to draw international attention to those incidents. If you
Occupy the consulary.
if you occupy embassies and consulates, it's going to draw international attention to it. And for how little it does, it is important to have international, the eyes on events like this, because you don't want like all of this shit to go entirely unnoticed by just media, because right wingers.
A good example would be the Venezuela, the occupation they did of the Venezuelan embassy.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to replace the officials in that with like pro-US Guaido people, and it worked. It worked quite well. They managed to run a successful occupation for I think about a week. Might have been more or a little bit less, but you get the point.
I think a question some people who are watching or rewatching after this is not live, some more less radical people might be thinking like, these guys are talking, these people are talking fantasy, like prepping for a civil war. How do we convince those people watching that we're not being pedantic, that this is an actual possibility that's on the horizon?
For one,
possibility. What did the UK do last time when people were like, "Hey, can we not have horrendous conditions?" They sent in the tanks.
Exactly, in Glasgow.
Oh yeah, and not just that. I'm talking about Northern Ireland. That wasn't in the 30s. That was, I think, the 70s. Mostly.
All throughout the 20th century.
Yeah, but most it really kicked off in the 70s and 80s, and it's like, this isn't some far off thing that never happens. Happens like every other decade. Well, with Britain, it's pretty much every decade, but Anglos be Anglos.
I mean, also, if you want to put it into a more global context, you can always bring up the fact that the United States pulled out of a nuclear proliferation treaty with Russia, meaning that imperialist war, like a third imperialist war, was probably maybe 20 years, maybe 10 years away. At this point, so I mean, don't prepare.
As tragic as it sounds, I know everyone said this during the 60s and stuff, but realistically, looking at it, how things are going now, this isn't me Posadist memeing, by the way, although it is slightly relevant, and I do enjoy it. I do think that all things going well, all of us are going to live realistically until our 80s or so, if we're all lucky. But I don't think it would be I don't think it's any exaggeration for us to say that our generation, all the people sitting here right now, we will almost certainly witness the Third World War at some stage.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
All of us sitting here will witness. We don't know when it's going to happen, but it's an inevitability, and I don't know whether or not. I mean, maybe part of the reason why I adopted this sort of meme Posadist persona is I'm trying to cheer myself up about it and just be like, maybe it's not going to be so. Maybe this is going to be fun.
No.
But in all reality,
that is a horrible way of putting it, Peter. That is a horrible way of putting it. I know where you're coming from, but that is a horrible way.
Oh, it's an absolutely awful way of putting it, and it's true though. Maybe it's just me trying to cope with the existential crisis it's triggering.
Sorry, go ahead.
There it is. There is an inevitability that a large-scale conflict will break out within our lifetime. That I don't think it will result in nuclear war. Realistically, it will be a war over resources, and it will be a war of overpopulation, a war of economic collapse. We're starting to see the groundwork.
I'm just gonna contradict my own question here and say, to you, Pac-Man. You said we might see a World War III. I reckon it's arguable that we're seeing it now, because there's people dying in the streets trying to protect themselves. I think World War III, we imagined it during
That
the 20th
depends
century.
on when you say that World War II started. There are people
yeah.
who say it started with the persecutions in the 30s.
Yeah, see,
In that
I mean,
sort of
what we're
context.
we
seeing
saw
now
we
is
saw World War III during the Cold War as the biggest nations that are out there are going to nuke one another and destroy the planet. Yet we didn't even think that perhaps World War III might not be that. It might just be a conventional war. But of course there is the third option of a rising up of people and their class consciousness, which is happening right now. There's people all around the world
of course because
marching, getting attacked. People have died. Charlottesville, is
TK.
essentially the
yeah,
kickoff of
like-
the American
TK.
Civil War.
TK. We could arguably say that World War III happened already because of the proxy wars that America waged against Soviet proxies in the 50s to the 70s. We could arguably say that those were like similar.
I would say
But
it's
also,
like generally a matter of
we have to
scale.
talk about, when do revolutionary waves happen? During imperialist wars.
No,
Now,
after them.
Well, during and after. So we have 1917 being the first, especially communist revolutionary wave. Then we have it go to 68, which is the post-war era, but also within the smaller imperialist wars. And we're looking at one today soon, I think, because, I mean, even bourgeois economists are saying we're heading towards a crash again.
Yeah,
and that's what I was going to say. Any of this will happen with like our generalized crisis of capitalism, and that's like the most important thing. We're not quite there yet.
Here's the thing, like,
but it's coming.
capitalism is already like failing to be able to actually pick up, after getting like damaged by this shit.
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's already
Yeah.
2008 hasn't recovered yet.
Yeah, it's not recovering like it used to, and that's only going to get progressively worse as we go on, and that alone's going to be enough to spur things on, because it's going to hit the point where it's not going to matter how much fascism stuff like that does to try and defend capital. It's not going to work. And people are going to see that and are going to be like, okay, we need something new.
Yeah.
Like, here's the thing that really, really sums it up well. Like, the US, ever since like the 50s, has been just hard on, completely anti-communist to the core because of like fucking McCarthyism and all this other shit. And now more than ever, especially with the younger generations, we're seeing them actively reject that.
Zordon,
That's going out the window.
Zordon just
To
gave us $5.
quote
Thank you,
somebody I
Zordon.
don't like. To quote someone I don't like, Nikita
Trotsky, isn't it?
Khrushchev, your children will be communists.
Exactly, and I would actually like to. I would like to say.
Trotsky.
I would like to say something myself. We grew up inheriting the hellscape that they created. Now we are going to change it come hell or high water. This generation, our generation, will destroy capitalism once and for all. Your children have become communists, and they will kill the abomination that you, the capitalist, stoutly defended until the end.
I heard recently that from one of my comrades that there were fires in Greenland or the Arctic or something like that.
Yeah, in the Arctic.
Can anyone really?
A wildfire.
Yeah, like, yeah, the idea of a wildfire in the Arctic is pretty
wildfire in the Arctic, where there's supposed
That's
to be
not as weird as you think.
cold
That's not as weird as you
with
think.
ice everywhere.
It's not cold. The thing is, the Arctic that we're talking about there is wet. this wildfires in Siberia all the time because it's fucking dry.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the way that it's kind of concerning. It's kind of like having seen pictures.
It's an indication.
Kind of like I living in Adelaide, I can guarantee you, like, climate change is fucking real. I can tell you right now. I've had to scrape ice off my car in the morning a couple of times. That hasn't happened in the entire 25 years I've been alive. I haven't seen ice in Adelaide.
Like, speaking as like an amateur gardener, even, like, you can just, by the way, there are certain delays in when you plant things, and like growth cycles are completely interrupted. So yeah, it's affecting shit. It really, you know.
I'm with a job mob. I won't say which one specifically, but for those who don't know, a job mob is like an Australian thing where they try to get your work. And if you go through them, then you get your settlement payments. So I'm with them, and one of the recruiters there was saying, you got to think about your future. You know, where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years? And I had to refrain from saying, you know, fighting over resources in the local grocery store because you can't grow food anymore. I just had to bite my tongue and say, like, management.
I mean.
I want to reply to Gordon in the chat. This wave of anti-capitalism. Wait, hold on. The wave of anti-capitalism doesn't mean anything if there isn't a proper communist movement. I completely fucking agree. Just because there's this like moderate anti-capitalist current right now doesn't mean anything. We have to push actual communist lines and spread it, because otherwise we're fucking useless otherwise.
Your friend,
If there's no organization, how can we take advantage?
Oh yeah, like we absolutely need to take this opportunity to step up and be like, hey, there's a way to fix all this, and it's this. Let's get on that train.
Your friend that says that they hate capitalism doesn't mean that they're a communist. You got to follow them up on it. Oh, if you hate capitalism, you're going to get rid of it. What would you like to replace it with? And then you get to the meat of their argument, and you find
they
out
almost always say social democracy,
Yeah.
or some variation.
Yeah,
Like that's
Jesus.
That's but this is the thing. I mean, although
democratic, which is social democracy.
Yeah, look, I was having an interesting moment. Like last night, I went to a friend's birthday party in a poorer area of Adelaide. And I was just sort of hanging out with the people, listening to their stories. You know, there are people with mental illness. There are people there are people who are struggling to find work. I spoke to a girl who is a single mum with 2 dogs that she was left with after the relationship collapsed, living with her son and her 2 dogs and herself in one room. Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty common in a lot of places.
I spoke to a woman who had the last time she had a job down here in Adelaide because of the economic conditions and because of the poor education system in accommodating for mentally divergent people. Spoke to someone who hasn't worked since she was 18. She's 25 now. You know, and I'm speaking to all other people and who were collectively organizing. Like, dinner was a collective effort. We all had to chip in money. I mean, it's a small thing. I know it's a common thing, but it's a little symbolic, I thought, because, you know, and hearing them talk about their adventures, like one of the girls openly admitted that an Australian police officer told her that the only way she could get out of the ticket was to perform sexual activity.
Oh boy.
You know what I mean? Like, this is ACAB for fucking real. Like, this shit, like the amount of poverty, the declining living standards, the stagnation of wages, like this situation is unfucking sustainable. And now, it's only now that everyone is just sort of waking up to that point. This is the opportunity for us as communists to really sort of get in there and be like, hey, and I mean, I work in a fucking petite bourgeois job. All of the people I work with are like, literally, they're like, oh, I'm in this to climb to management, to work on my career, to improve my sales technique. And I'm just here, join the fucking union. For God's sake. I am sitting there.
if we don't organize, if we don't get these movements kicked off in the right direction, the fascists will do it. The centrists will
Yeah.
do it. We'll get shit
And-
like
Oh,
and
yeah.
this is the thing.
Because they can go
Hong
in and be
Kong.
like, well, see, the problem with this is actually all the brown people and the Jewish conspiracy.
Yeah.
No. Oh,
Like,
Jesus.
That's what they've been doing.
with the liberals, Extinction Rebellion.
Oh, yeah, which, like,
Eastern martial
Fuck.
arts does not
they
advocate for violence
purposefully
or
try to get people in
Extinction
jail at
Rebellion.
every fucking turn.
And I would also like
Kind of
to
weird psyop.
Yeah, I would also like to respond to Brandon Renard, who posted a question to me in the chat. How do I feel about the nationalists in Wales, Plaid Cymru, working with the Liberal Democrats, and do I think the Scottish National Party will do the same? Honestly, I'm not surprised because they are an establishment political party. As for and again, their main concern I think is keeping Wales in keeping the UK and by extension Wales in the EU. As for the SNP, I'd say that their main goal just now is getting Scotland independent. Like, obviously, Plaid
They
Cymru
wouldn't
want
work
well.
with the Lib Dems for the very reason that the Lib Dems are mostly unionists. So.
Yeah, like, and Plaid Cymru, they know for a fact that an independent Wales is far less likely than an independent Scotland. So they're just wanting
At least as things are now.
Yeah, they're wanting to manage. They're wanting to do like a controlled burst, like a manage like here or there. But the SNP, I think if they have the ability to push straight for independence, I think they're going to do it.
I think that question really shows that we've gone a bit off topic and we could talk for another hour or so on this. So I think that might be a good point to move on to the to our last
probably a
topic.
good point.
Okay.
But I will say.
Boys! All right.
Wait, what? Hang on.
Thank you.
Just before we move on, I want to give a quick special thanks to Zordon, who gave us $5 in the chat. Thank you so much. When you do donate,
Cheers.
there'll be a little notification. Comrade John has donated $3. Oh, thank you very much. So when you donate, it'll show up down there.
Donate to our Patreon.
Yep. You can also donate
Okay.
to our Patreon, and your support goes a long way because it means we can have storage of data and SoundCloud and pizza.
Pizza.
Actually,
Yeah. Look, okay, throwing this
Condoms.
out here. Yeah, that's good too. Throwing this out here just before we move on, I would just like to report somehow I still haven't been fired yet for explaining the labor theory of value to my colleagues and to customers.
They know they can't touch you because as soon as they do, the entire NUW will just walk in to that place.
Actually, the funniest thing is, I actually had that moment. I was talking to a blacksmith from WA, like a guy who does who makes blacksmith art for people. Makes blacksmith art for people who build fucking Borgies who build fancy homes. Like he makes iron railings and stuff like that for their staircases. Anyway, I was talking to him and we had a whole conversation about economics and how it works, and I explained the inevitable crisis of capitalism to him, and he actually ended the call, and I shit you not, with "Viva la revolution."
Yes.
And I was like, oh, I'm like, yes.
I was on a work night out on Sunday night. It was like someone's leaving someone was leaving the fucking pub, and we were having a couple of drinks for them. I rocked up wearing a fucking hammer and sickle t-shirt. And no one batted an eye.
Hey.
Power move. Yeah.
So, moving on to our next topic. Speaking of, because we were just talking about different movements stepping in when communists and socialists haven't yet. A prime example of this is possibly what's going on in Hong Kong. DipDap, could you give us an update on Hong Kong?
Okay, so now it's been going on for 4 months. Okay? As of this week, the United States has adopted the pro-Xi Jinping position. The police are now working with Triads. Triads are basically Chinese mafia. They were paid by the police to attack protesters, and they attacked regular passerby, including elderly, underage people, and a pregnant woman. Next, Right now, Hong Kong is experiencing extreme weather conditions, a tropical storm.
Huh, weird how that happens a lot lately.
Politicians
Reason for
are
it.
both joining protesters and supporting the Chinese government on either side. Next, there are 6 dead, all by suicide. 1 symbolic, as far as I'm aware. There have been 230 or more injuries, and there have been over 200 arrests. Figured out how to get rid of tear gas by throwing it back at the cops after water mixed with vinegar, picking it up with a rag and throwing it back.
Shit, man.
Next, they have figured out how to stop Chinese facial recognition software with laser pointers.
I saw a video.
Literal fucking cyber war.
Honestly though, what this is very much reminiscent of what things like the July riots in Vienna or the 1905 revolution in Russia was to later uprisings in the 20th century. It's a staging ground for different tactics that we learn. Basically, it is the update of riot tactics to the 21st century. That's what I think is the biggest significance of Hong Kong at the moment for just us in general as a whole.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
like we gotta take
I would
notes
like
on
to
this
read
shit.
the demands of the Hong Kong protesters.
this. Oh,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, this reminds me, Dip Tap, of that day in the 1980s where nothing happened. Doesn't it remind you?
Yes.
Okay, any of you know what Weibo is?
What? Sorry.
It's like Chinese YouTube. Okay, so the
Oh,
Chinese
okay, yep,
military
I got
now
you.
posted a video threatening the protesters with military action.
Nothing's
soon,
gonna
though,
happen,
as well.
fellas. Nothing's happening.
Nothing's gonna
Nothing is happening. Nothing's gonna happen. I'm excited.
So this
now,
is to do.
Now I'm going to read their demands. Quote, we are a group of Hong Kongers who love our city. After our government ignored our voices and used excessive force to clear peaceful protesters, we are more determined to restate our 5 demands. Full withdrawal of the extradition bill. A temporary suspension of the bill means the approval process could be resumed at a later time. We only accept a full withdrawal. 2. Retraction of the riot characterization. Peaceful protesters were attacked violently by the police force using lethal weapons. Therefore, we do not accept the characterization of the protest as a riot. 3. Release all arrested protesters, especially the students and the wounded. We demand the government to drop all charges against them and promise there will be no future persecution. 4. Investigation of police accountability for brutality. We demand that all police officers who used excessive violence against protesters and journalists be held accountable for their actions. 5. Carrie Lam's resignation. It is clear that the chief executive continued to ignore the public opinion and has led to the escalation of the situation. With the total loss of confidence in her capability, we demand Carrie Lam's resignation immediately. We will not back down until our demands are met. End quote.
That's a riot.
Okay, I'm
That's
sorry.
not a riot. That is a straight up what's its face? I can't talk.
Cutie.
I was gonna say right now, I don't think after that sort of statement, given the history and how the CPC actually operates, I was memeing before, but I'm being serious. I do think Xi will end this the same way his predecessor did. The People's
has to.
Liberation Army will end it.
They put up a good
It
goddamn
has to
fight.
because.
Go ahead,
I mean,
Mushroom.
because Hong Kong has been signed away to the Chinese. Chinese accepted becoming independent in any way. What's the 24 for its reabsorption into the mainland?
So you're cutting out there, Mushroom. What were you saying?
Am I?
Yeah.
Sorry. I was just saying that it has to end violently because China won't accept its independence no matter what. I mean, I was just asking what the cutoff is for its reabsorption into the mainland. Is it 2040?
I forget the date.
Yeah, because it was
I
just
posted all the videos that the Hong Kong protesters made on my Twitter account. They are very good. Please watch them.
I have seen a few, but like the only way I can see this resolving itself, the Chinese working class stands in solidarity with the people in Hong Kong. That's it. If there's a wide enough movement in the mainland, otherwise it's just going to be like it'll be a bloodbath anyway, but it'll be a bloodbath. You know.
I put a link to one of the videos in the chat. That is their video of demands.
Well, you see, the thing is that I find interesting. The Americans, Trump talked a big game about China, and the Americans are like, oh, bless you. And the Americans are all like losing their shit over, civil rights and freedom and democracy. But at the moment, like, they're not going to lift a finger to stop this. Trump wants to see this squashed. It's going to suit his interests too, because it sets a precedent.
I think the U.S. government wants to see it squashed. Trump is a little too distracted with tweeting at this point.
Right. Idea. Instead of shutting down Guantanamo Bay, we release the innocent people inside of it, throw Trump in it, rechristen it as being Bantanamo Bay, and waterboard him for like 10 years.
I'd probably just throw him in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Sorry, we missed Guantanamo Bay. You gotta swim.
A bit of a plug for me, okay? On my Instagram, I'll be posting quotes from the book I am reading about state repression and resistance in China, called Resistance, Chaos, and Control in China. This will be over the next few days. Please follow my Instagram.
Yeah, okay. You know what? Here's a China-related topic. This is a really damning indictment of China as a whole. I've had Total War 3 Kingdoms installed for a month since its release. I haven't played it yet. Anyway, just dropping that meme in.
Shameful display.
Fuck's sake.
Oh god, you had to go there, Crypto, didn't you?
Wrong country, but go on.
I know.
What is there to really get out of movements like this? Like with the Yellow Vests in France and the Hong Kong people moving more towards an independence movement.
Well, I was gonna sort of tangentially ask, what is the state of anti-capitalism in Hong Kong?
Non-existent. They're pro-capitalist, as far as I'm aware.
Completely, everyone in.
I'm getting the vibe that it's sort of like I think what we have here is like very similar, like the same thing with the Yellow Vest protest in France, and to an extent, the Occupy movement. What we have is people asserting their, hatred of, this sort of behavior and all that same thing. But you see, the thing is, the reason why Hong Kong values its independence so much, given what the city is and how it operates, I wouldn't put too much stock in there being a very strong left-wing presence in Hong Kong regarding as part of this movement. Maybe DipDap can correct me. I don't know. I wouldn't
any
think
Hong
so.
Kongers that even ever find this fucking podcast, understand that China is not communist. They are fucking bureaucratic neoliberals. Come to the correct side. Go become
You're a liberal.
I don't know. I just think that with Hong Kong and how it operates and what its economy is built on and everything like that, and of course the China being the red menace, I think it's going to be predominantly reactionary. But
Gordozin asks, how reactionary is Hong Kong in the chat?
Oh, pretty
they're
bad.
kind of liberal. They just want the main thing of the democracy camp in China is that of Hong Kong rule of Hong Kong. That's about it. They only really care about China not fucking with them.
I'm going to quote that. I'm going to quote Gorderson in the chat there. There's always trots in a protest. Absolutely fucking true. They show up to they flog their papers in protests that aren't even there.
Okay, push the fucking proletarian camp because this needs to happen.
Yeah, true, but
people in Hong Kong live in, like, most ordinary people live in cages. Shit. Like, you know, they're treated like shit. You have a financial, you know, bourgeoisie, but, you know, I can see that being a point of solidarity between mainland and Hong Kong.
Two Hong Kongers. Huang.
Like, I don't know. I think DipDap's audio keeps cutting out. But like the way I see Hong Kong behaving if it became independent from China, I see we're gonna see a modern day equivalent of like Renaissance Venice. Like we're gonna see a massive like sort of hub of capitalism, just this gigantic one, and it's gonna be like horrible and nasty. I kind of hope, like, we keep making the mistake that there's always, like, every time that someone rises up against the government now, it's sort of like, you know, oh, there's potential for leftist activity, but sometimes we just got to realize that it's probably not. I mean, the most this is liberals making the transitionary phase from crying about something to actually doing something. That's basically what we're seeing.
So
yeah, which, I mean,
I think it's more.
I can appreciate them, you know, finally deciding, hey, maybe we should actually try and do something. That's good and all. I just wish that they had more of a goal than just this, you know?
So should we, when I say we, I mean the left in general, not just us on this podcast, because we can't get to Hong Kong and influence their push.
Speak for yourself, mother.
All right, some of us could afford a plane ticket, others can't.
No, I can't.
Speak for yourself when I'm in there fucking January.
Oh yeah, like
so the question is if this is the consensus we have on Hong Kong, what position do we take when someone says, like, oh, what's this business with Hong Kong? What do you think? What's the left's position? Like, what is our position on it?
Try to learn about, I would say it's try to learn about whether there is a left there at all, because I know the head of the Chinese is currently in Hong Kong. You know, stuff like that. Just I think we should build our knowledge of what's going on there and then try, talk to them.
Here's something I'd say. And I want to shout out, even though we've been disagreeing and agreeing on different points, I'd like to shout out Marxist Youth in the chat, who actually said this here, that said Tiananmen Square, excuse me, that thing that didn't happen, had much more revolutionary tendency than the new Hong Kong movement. And I would say, yeah, because if you look at Tiananmen Square, it's like, it's the same thing with Hungary, Tankies Re, where you look at it and you look at the Hungarian protests, like the Prague Spring and all that. You look at all those sort of groups there and all that sort of thing, and it's the same with Tiananmen Square. Like, are we dealing with, the People First Fascist Brigade of murdering minority groups or whatever? No, look at the names of the movements opposing the Communist Party of China during the thing that didn't happen: the Beijing Students Autonomous Federation, the Beijing Workers Autonomous Federation, factory workers, Beijing residents, university students. Now there are of course other factions which were not left wing or anything like that, but there is a lot of times where there are genuine leftist movements who don't agree with how their purported left wing, with massive fucking quotation marks, government is behaving. And I think that we need to make that point. We need to use the events of 1989 as an example. We need to explain to them that no, it wasn't a bunch of right-wing, we want capitalism, liberal people in Tiananmen Square. It was the workers going, hey, we are the actual socialists. We signed up for this socialism thing. Can we have some socialism now? And the government said no. That's what we need to make, and we need to make that point. And we need to direct the topic to that event rather than Hong Kong. We need to steer them this way.
Same thing happened with the Shanghai Commune and the Cultural Revolution.
Yeah.
Read Wither China, the China of tomorrow shall be the China of the Commune.
Oh, God. The feels right there. Like, the feels right there. But that's the sort of angle that I'd play, because people are looking at this, and when they're going to see Tiananmen, when Tiananmen Square 2 Tank Boogaloo happens again, it's going to happen. We know it's going to happen. Eventually, Xi's going to put the foot down. When they crush it, it's going to have to be a symbol. It's going to be equivocated to Tiananmen Square. I mean, I'm doing it now, but the rest of the world is going to equivocate it to Tiananmen Square, and we need to make the point. We need to make the differentiation that even though these guys are talking about independent Hong Kong for different reasons, at its core, there are leftists and communists in China, and they are the ones leading the fight most of the time. These are people who are actually doing
Read Chuang. Please read them. They're so fucking good.
Like, because the biggest opposition, like, it's the same in the Soviet Union. It was the same in when the Trots tried to pull shit in Vietnam. It's the same thing.
You gotta be careful talking about these interventions, because if you talk too much about Khrushchev and
Goulash will appear.
Yeah, he'll appear.
He will
Goulash, if you're there, please come back. We love you.
But yeah, come back. Where is he? But that's the sort of thing. It's like the number one resistors to these so-called evil communist states, 90% of the time are the actual communists trying to rescue it. Okay? This is the thing. This is the thing. People don't get that. They see, oh, look at us, look at those brave capitalist liberals standing up to the evil communist. No, they are real communists trying to kill the fake ones.
Exactly.
That's the point. And people don't seem to get that. And I am now going to take shelter in my Hojist bunker, even though the Hojists are trying to kill me because of what I just said. Because here come the tanks. The tanks are coming to my house. There is a T-34 about to roll down my street.
Oh, that's
for what I've just said.
Pac-Man, that's me. Don't worry about it.
Dingus
fine.
gonna
Thank
come
you.
to your house and fight you.
The Dingus are gonna come for me one day.
Dingus,
All three of them? Fuck off.
Fight me. All right, we've
all
gone
three
about,
of them. I'm not afraid.
We've gone for about an hour and a half now. Perhaps that's a good point to wrap up. Does anyone have any last words on Hong Kong before we wrap up?
It's important to look to it for, methods of dealing with, police intervention with protests and things like that in the future. And I am very curious to see if there is actually a left-wing sort of group in it somewhere in there. I'm very curious to see whether that's the case or not, because I don't expect it per se, at least not one of any notable size, but it's possible, and that'd be cool.
All right. I guess that's a good point to end. Does anyone have any last plugs? Anywhere we should subscribe? Anyone want to
I
plug
have.
Twitter?
I have
Instagram, hammers.n.host.
I have a plug, and that's that I have I run an Armor 3 unit, and if anyone wants to come join that, I'm going to put an invite into the chat right now. In 5 years, hold on.
It won't let you probably. It'll say you can't.
This
post
is the
links
calm. Be ready for the storm. Here it comes.
Let's just
anymore.
can you just put this in the comments of the fucking thing or something? I'm gonna put it in the fucking here. Can you just put that somewhere that people can see it?
Yep.
What I would also say is the reading of Nestor Makhno's The Struggle Against the State and the Other Essays, it is progressing, although as I have recently started working, I have had noticeably less time to work on it, but I am working on it. I hope to get it finished hopefully by the end of this month, perhaps beginning of September. if all goes well. I only apologise that it's taking so long. But then again, I don't feel like I should. I don't think I need to apologise because, to be honest, I think it's probably a blessing. You just don't need to hear my voice.
I mean, your voice is
Aw.
wonderful, Crypto.
That, and we've been hearing it for the past hour and a half, so you done fucked yourself there.
That is true.
As for me, I would like to give a shout out to my friends, comrades, and co-conspirators Shon and Ronan, who have been in the chat this time, by simply repeating their phrase that was used in their latest video, which I also happen to voice. Thanos did nothing wrong.
God damn.
Fuck's sake.
Everything in balance.
Or
EML does
Banos.
not advocate for destroying half of all life in the universe.
Speak for yourself.
Well, if that's everyone, yeah. I want to thank everyone for joining us in the chat, especially to Zordon, who keeps donating. Thank you so much, man. Want a special thank you to Theo, the Red Mushroom, Positives Pac-Man, Dip Dap, Crypto, and Senna for joining us on the stream. Don't
I the very last?
Don't forget to like and subscribe and to donate to our stream and Patreon. And join us in the Discord and follow us on Twitter. Thank you all for coming. Good night.